Overflow. At the top, so on the vertical axis, you have the count, so sort of the number of questions that show up around that sort of technology. And then on the bottom is sort of the ranking. So starting in 2012, you can see that C# actually is the technology with the most number of questions, so it's sort of ranked at the top. And so let's run the simulation to see what happens over the years. And it's a pretty significant change. You can notice that C# is no longer ranked at the top. In fact, JavaScript now has the highest ranking. Python has sort of a significant growth. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're starting from, well, we have to transform from knowing these particular skills to another. Typically, it's an add, and it's the advancement of technology and sort of new approaches, and those are things that we're seeing even within Open edX today. If I look at our engineering team, our sort of standard portfolio of software engineers at Microsoft would be those that were immersed in C, C++, most recently C#, right? Maybe some of them know sort of the web stack. And for our own team, we had to spend an initial set of ramp-up time skilling up the team to actually understand, from Windows to Linux, Python, Django, and sort of all those related technologies, which were net new to the team. And then let's talk about digital transformation and some of the trends that we have to address in sort of learning today. And it's not necessarily that it's either or. It's actually typically an and how do you combine them? And some of the ones, to sort of call out, certainly you want to have global scale, but you also want to have local relevance. You want the learning that you have to be relevant locally to those learners. We've pivoted more from moment in time to also now having always on, and from sort of centralized systems for learning to having more federated and networked. And of course, also the move from single channel to omni-channel, where there's sort of multiple modalities and distributions and ways of consuming that learning content that's being provided. Whereas before, content may only have been highly curated, now we also encourage and rely upon as learners recommendations within our social networks. And then for Microsoft, framing our landscape also required that our solutions support all of our audiences. And for us, this includes our customers. This includes our partners. These are partners that we sell with and have sort of specific sort of relationships with as sort of strategic influencers. And then, of course, also our employees. So how do we build a solution or solutions that actually serve all of these audiences together? And then, of course, we have to be thinking about how we integrate this in the enterprise. And so I've got a little snapshot here of Microsoft's sort of enterprise systems. Of course, we have human resources. So we have HR data about roles, data about employee start dates, et cetera. We have financial data, which aligns to our employees and aligns to the geographies and regions in which they work. And then we have master data services, where we input sort of related taxonomy information about readiness, right? So the knowledge management sort of system that we want. And we have to combine all of that together, and so those disparate inputs, and sort of push them into an enterprise learning ecosystem. This comprises a set of learning and discovery services, or learning and development services, an LMS, a learning management system, which today we use as SuccessFactors, targeting data for how we can actually, when we have sort of compliance-related training or readiness-oriented training for particular roles, how we actually target that to those individuals. And then finally, of course, reporting, because we have to be able to report on sort of the compliance as well as sort of the success of those initiatives that we're leading for our employees. So what's been our approach? So let's talk about some of the solutions and the considerations that we made. So the first thing, we wanted to have flexible solutions that enable learning at scale, that actually enable us to benefit from the economies of scale as well. So even when we're serving those multiple audiences, that ideally we're not paying 3 times to serve all 3 audiences. That we have deep, extended engagement with experts and peers, so that our learning assets, our course content and stuff actually enable that type of engagement or interaction in communities of practice or within your cohort. That impact is applicable and measurable. That we have ways of understanding through the analytics data the return on investment with the particular courses that we've built, as well as the program offerings and initiatives that we're running. That we have content that's aligned to skill paths. And this is really sort of, I think, a big change for us, is not necessarily aligned to particular products or services that we're offering, but actually focusing on skills. The products and those services will come into play in the hands-on practice that you get when learning to apply those skills. And that it was also important that learners actually produce artifacts that represent those hands-on experiences, be it labs, be it capstone projects or something similar, but something representative in their portfolio that's indicative of an outcome of them being able to practice and therefore prove their skill attainment. And that we also focus on role-based curricula for in-demand technology jobs, sort of a big pivot there and aligns to the skills. And of course, when we talk about the multiple audiences, customer, partner, employee, ideally, that course content can actually serve all of those audiences, that we don't actually have to build 3 different types of courses for those audiences, nor do we have 3 different groups within the company building that type of content. So one of the first investments that we decided to make to sort of address those is to go to massive open online courses, or MOOCs. And today we sort of have 2 approaches to that. One is that we've published courses on edX.org sort of as a school. We have over 2.5 million enrollments, over 100 courses that have been published across 213 countries, and over 700,000 course starts. And then we have openedx.microsoft.com, which is our running instance of OpenEdX on Azure. And this is another place where most recently we've published a number of courses, almost 30 courses in several languages that relate to Azure skills. The second part of our solution was the Microsoft Professional Program, which is MOOC-based training for technology job roles in the greatest demand. We went live in September of last year with our first curriculum track in data science. And since then, we have open enrollment now for 2 new tracks in web development in big data. Within the Microsoft Professional Program, we've had over 50,000 enrollments and over 1,100 graduates. And then also, as part of this notion, we also introduced learning as a service, which is intended to be a way for us to be able to syndicate that content and professional training. We talk a lot about global scale and local relevance, and this is a great opportunity for us to have local relevance by enabling others to leverage our content, augment as needed, and tailor that content to that local region. We provide the deployment templates in this solution. We provide the course content as well to these partners that are running their own OpenEdX installations. Each one of those courses actually contains an LTI module that can actually integrate and talk back to enable a Microsoft achievement workflow, which I'll show in a little bit. And then, of course, we provide a centralized place for learners to go to actually see their collection of achievements that they've achieved, which may be from more than one partner. So here's how we've done that. This is how we've created a connected open edX ecosystem. So at its base, which is on the far right, we have a single open edX installation running on Azure. There's a common sort of course catalog there. And then we have 3 different Django sites that target customers, partners, and employees. These 3 different sites actually enable us to provide tailored experiences based upon those audiences. As an example, for our partners, we actually tend to pivot the way that course content is surfaced based upon the competencies by which our partners and our Microsoft Partner Network are measured. For our employees, we provide a custom portal access for them to see their learning. And these MOOC courses are just one of many different types of learning assets that are exposed to them. So this is aggregated by that system. Then to the far left, we have our Microsoft Achievement site, the academy.microsoft.com. This is actually where we also host the Microsoft Professional Program. Those courses in the Microsoft Professional Program are actually taken on edX. And we use account linking to be able to link the learner's progress information and completion data back to the dashboard to track their progression against that curriculum. Additionally, with this solution and with that LTI module that I shared in the previous slide, for any of those partner OpenEdX installations, they can also link back to the achievement site. And we're able to sort of share that information from that account and sort of enable an achievement workflow as well so that we can surface all the achievements in a central place. And then how did we integrate this in our enterprise system? So if we took the original sort of enterprise diagram that we had and we sort of double click on it and look at sort of the connections, the central piece for us within our enterprise system is our learning and discovery services. This is a thin layer that serves as an aggregator across any of the different learning assets that we may have. And so it has and supports the integration with the portal that we have for where employees can get access to learning content that has been assigned to them or recommended to them or that they could browse for, as well as sort of enables the integration with the learning management system with SuccessFactors. Fundamentally, what we do with the OpenEdX installation is actually push that course content, the course catalog that we have for all the MOOC courses that are there, through the learning and discovery services so that they can be surfaced through the My Learning portal for our employees. And then at the same time, on the back end, we can actually push all of that data from that OpenEdX installation into our BI data warehouse for any of the reporting that we need to do. So let's talk about the results. So what have we been able to sort of accomplish to date? So first, let's talk about Microsoft completion rates across modalities. So certainly in instructor-led training, we typically have 100% completion rate because it's someone that's been, that goes to the class and makes it through the class. Now it's questionable at the end of that class of whether or not there was any net gain of skills, depending upon the amount of participation, right, that learner has had. Secondly is we have Microsoft Virtual Academy, which is mva.microsoft.com. Fundamentally, this is a place where you'll find online tutorials. This is mostly very heavily based video content and in some cases some lightweight knowledge check style assessments. The completion rate for any of these courses on MVA is roughly about 4%. For edX MOOCs, we typically see about a 5 to 7% completion rate. But what's really interesting is the number for our data science Microsoft Professional Program pilot, and that was 30%. But let me tell you about the pilot. The pilot was actually a pathway of 10 courses, 9 MOOCs, and a capstone project. So that 30% completion is actually over the entire curriculum. So starting with 605 learners entering the pilot, 208 made it through the 10 courses to actually achieve their professional certificate. So in other words, for most of these courses in the sequence, the completion rate was generally in the 80% range, because if we took the traditional 5 to 7% completion rate, wouldn't really, after about 4 or 5 courses, we would have run out of learners actually making it through. Another way that we sort of look at the results is actually also to try to provide a framework by which we can analyze courses and enable us to do sort of comparative analysis. One of the first things that we've been looking at to see what sort of interesting insights we may be able to tell about this is this notion of course DNA. And fundamentally, this is breaking down a course into its constituent elements and sort of graphing that out. And so you have sort of HTML and regular text that's in the yellow. The problems are represented in black here, and then the videos are represented in green. And then you can look at, every one of those MOOC courses actually had, for the most part, a different DNA. There were 2 that were roughly very similar, the Intro to R and Intro to Python, which also had a fairly high and consistent sort of completion rate comparative to sort of the others. And it's sort of interesting in looking at those courses specifically to see whether or not course structure actually can improve learner outcomes. And so I'll close here with kind of summarizing the journey that we've had at Microsoft with edX. So our journey began on March 10th, 2015, when we actually announced our partnership with edX and published the first 7 courses. By July of that year, we had 124,000 learners over 193 countries, and attracting a median age demographic of around 29 years. 1 year later, so fast forward to July of 2016, we've now gone from publishing 7 courses to 70. We have 1.25 million learners. We announced the Microsoft Professional Program at that point in time, so we opened it for information. And then we had also been running our first internal pilot of OpenEdX on Azure. And now, in May 2017, we have over 100 courses, 2.6 million learners. We have over 1,100 graduates of the Microsoft Professional Program and the data science curriculum, and that launched in September of 2016. And we also now have an OpenEdX on Azure stamped deployment, so for high availability, high scale, and something that we're now running as production workloads for our Azure Skills hosting content for customers, as well as what we're doing to serve our internal employees with the MOOCs that they need for training. Thank you. So any questions? And I'm going to introduce one of my colleagues here, Bjorn Reddig, to come up, who leads our School of Applied Technology, so we can address any of your questions.
Hi. Over here. Yeah. I'm Eran Raviv. I'm the director of Campus AL, Israel's national online education platform. First, thanks for very informative slides and probably the best visualization that I've seen during this conference. So, thank you. I was wondering if you have any cases of localizing some of the courses, the edX.org courses, on other open edX instances, and if so, what's the process needed in order to do that?
Okay, so we just recently did one pilot for Japanese, and we're still in the process of going through it. There are lots more problems than we thought there would be, because of we are working very agile in my team on courses. So I saw your presentation yesterday. We started agile from the very beginning. So we are creating our courses in 3 sprints, and then they get out, and then we update them on an ongoing basis. And that's obviously a problem when you start to localize, because keeping up with the localization is really, really hard. And I should add that my background at Microsoft is actually localization, so that's the stuff that I really like, yet right now we don't have a good solution. We have another 11 courses that we localized into 7 languages, and there I can share with you that the cost to now maintain them year over year is as expensive as the original localization cost. So it's very significant. So I'm not sure that we can continue to afford it.
Thank you so much. When you say localization, is that so you have subtitles on the one end and like full localization, all documented, translated, etc.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by?
So we're doing we're not reshooting videos. Actually, for the Japanese one, we're reshooting videos. Am I too tall? So for the Japanese ones, we're not reshooting. We're reshooting videos. For all the other ones, we translated the subtitles, but our courses are set up that only 25% of the course time is spent in videos, and the rest is learning and homework assignments and so on. And we translated all of that. So the majority of course content is localized.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Isabelle Touret. I come from edX. We're a group of schools in France, or in higher education, continuing education. I was really interested in the point where you explained about the analysis of the DNA of the course, looking at the different results. I would like to know what are your conclusions on that, because actually we are thinking about maybe looking at not going away from so many videos and maybe going back to more text. So I would be interested in knowing your conclusion.
So one of the outcomes was actually what I just mentioned, is that we have now, we have only about 25% of the time that a student spends in a course, or that we would expect a student to spend in a course, is spent in videos, and all the rest is further reading, so to say, right? Homework assignments, reading assignments. We actually, I believe you could pass all of our courses without watching any of the videos. It would be rather boring, but you could. Our videos are very entertaining. But the important, like the videos are a bit like the lecture, and then your homework and your further reading is really what's more important than the lectures. So that's one of the things that we learned. I just want to warn everybody a little bit with this graphic, because some of the completion numbers are a little misleading below, because they're not normalized for course size. So for example, the Excel course has like something like 400,000 students, of which a lot drop out because they believe it's an Excel course, but it's actually a course on analyzing and visualizing data, and you need to know already how to use the tool. And so that's why it has a relatively low completion rate, but it's not necessarily the least successful course of them all. So I just want, like, if you don't know the data exactly, it can be misleading.
But it also aligns with a bit of what Anant shared in his keynote yesterday as well, right? About the interleaving of, having the practice aspects, right? In addition to the other elements of the course.
Yeah. Of course, and it leads us to think that maybe it's more important. Also, the videos cost us a lot in comparison with the results. So maybe we would think to have videos more to show the interest of the notion or the applications and things like that in the beginning, and then having text for the content and then a lot of activities. Rather than too many videos.
Yeah. And I believe there's nothing wrong with having some fun with the videos to keep people, I mean, that's something that we're definitely seeing, keeping students engaged and having fun, and then like they can then read through stuff.
You can afford it or not, depending on how much money you have.
Well, it's not expensive to have fun.
Yeah, but it takes time to produce them.
Very impressive what you've done in a very short time. I'm interested in whether you have any indication with, now that you've been promoting training and skill development with your own staff within the organisation through kind of MOOC platforms and your own MOOC courses, has that spread to your staff now accessing other MOOCs from other providers to expand their skill sets even more beyond what you've developed in-house?
So I don't think we have anything but anecdotal evidence about that, but it's definitely, I mean, one thing that I can definitely say, we recently had an internal external campaign, which was an Azure Skills Initiative to actually teach Microsoft employees more about Azure. And that definitely has had very good feedback from people who had never done a MOOC before, and they were really excited about MOOCs, and I believe some of them probably went out and did initial MOOCs. I know that some people who we send to edX and get stuck on edX and they're doing one course after the other, so that happens too.
Hi, you mentioned your relatively high completion rates in the professional data science certificate course as compared to your other Open edX hosted courses. I was wondering if you also had statistics to compare to other paid professional certificate courses in other environments.
Like what other environments? So we only have edX, that's our environment.
Okay, so you have this one,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, you can compare, definitely we see, I mean, I think everybody sees a significant increase when a student takes a verified certificate, how many students are actually completing the course then. And I believe it's, for our courses, it's 80 to 90% if somebody invests in the verified certificate. With a professional program, they actually have in order to get the certificate in the end, you have to have a verified certificate for every single course. So they basically are self-encouraging to continue on and complete this thing. And then also you see, I mean, we don't have the graphic right here, but if you, at about the 6th or 7th course, there's hardly any drop-off anymore, because by then people are so invested that they just want to continue on. It's kind of like you have done 6 out of 10, why wouldn't you do the rest?
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that some of your content from Microsoft are confidential, right? So how did you solve that problem? Because when you were making the courses,
We have almost no secrets.
there's no. But
No, I mean, all of our courses are public, and we are actually, you know, if you think about Microsoft's mission, this is to empower everybody on the planet to do more. Obviously, the best way to do that is through learning, in our point of view. So there is, this is our goal of the team, to empower people around the world. When Carolyn showed that we have learners from 213 countries and regions, because I don't think there are 213 countries in the world, recognized countries. But one of, like, my personal goal, and that's why I'm actually leading this team, is to, and I always say I want to hire one person from Burkina Faso, right? I want to see this, like, from this African country, one person who shows up in one of our courses and is doing so well that we can invite them for an interview and then hopefully hire. And that's really, like, and you can replace Burkina Faso by any other country, right, by something that people don't know. But it could also be rural Kentucky, right? We're providing opportunity, and I don't think that anything that we're teaching would be considered confidential. I mean, we teach a lot of insights. So I, for example, do a course on localization, and we explain how we're doing it, and we are also not shy about telling people how we screwed up a lot of times, because that's part of the learning.
I will say that if there is the case where we need to have private MOOC content for, say, our employees, we use Azure Media Services. We have an X block for that enables us to provide protected video content.
But to a certain extent, then it's obviously not a MOOC anymore, but a Spock.
Yeah.
And my team does MOOCs. One more question. Well, actually, let's do 2. Sorry.
Yeah,
If
thanks
it's
for
fast.
Thanks for a great data-heavy talk. So, a couple of questions. One is, like to learn more about the fun that you're having in the course production process. So, especially working with internal subject matter experts, right? Like, what's your workflow like? And the second one, and you can choose to answer both or one. The analytics part is also very, very interesting, some of the stats that you showed. So was this generally powered by what Open edX provides, or was it your own analytics solutions on top of the platform? I'd like to learn more about that.
So for the first part, I mean, we're trying to spend about, for every course, about 2 days in the studio recording videos. So by that point, we know everything that we want to record. And my team actually went, or is going through regular improv training, so improvisation. So basically to keep things going and fun, and if you screw up, you just move on. And we don't try to make our videos perfect, because we have seen, if you actually, as the instructor, make a mistake, students actually learn more from the mistake that you made, unless it's a horrible mistake. But most of the times it's better, like when you're live coding, to actually, oh, I guess that wasn't the right code, and you fix it, and you do this like it's semi-live, right? But and I mean, we definitely have some, like, we try to have light-hearted videos more. I mean, some of them are still very bad. And then
for your second question, I've popped up here the Power BI dashboard. So we have a BI data ingestion pipeline where we pull data from edX.org. We can pull it from the daily, weekly files in S3 storage for us to process. And then we can pull directly from our Open edX installations and bring that into our data warehouse. And then we use Power BI as dashboards on top of that data and have all sorts of different dimensional filtering. We can filter based upon different cohorts, geographies, et cetera, for all the data that we can slice and dice and serve up our insights team.
Okay, and you see we actually have 3.2 million students enrolled. We were underplaying it. I think we had one more question there. And that. Yeah.
Yeah, hi. Thanks very much. Fantastic presentation. I just wanted to know if there's anything you could share about costs in general and how you budget all of this.
So all of our courses is done, like, the person responsible is in my team. So I have about 30 instructors, 30 instructors in my team who are all teaching, like, they're split up in 4 different areas or schools, as you want to say. And we have, and I can, like, just very openly, we have a budget of $25,000 per course to hire in SMEs if we need them. We usually don't use all that money. We spent about $12,000 in internal video production cost. So we have 2 studios which are already paid for, but then, like, just the video production costs us about $12,000. And then the publishing and, like, QA and so on is about $1,200 per cost, so per course. So if you add this all up, including paying for the full-time person which works on this for about 3 sprints, which is 9 weeks, it adds up to around $84,000 to $89,000 per course. And these were numbers from yesterday, and that's why I know them, because I just sounded very impressive, right? Okay. So thank you very much. Obviously, find us around. We're hanging out here at the conference. So after.
Thank you.
Good morning. Not bad. All right, so I realize that I am in the worst speaking spot there is, right before lunch. So these panelists, we've got to pay attention to them. I know you're hungry, but our goal here is for you to be a little late to lunch because this was so compelling. My second goal is that, first of all, I'm Harry Klein. I'm the VP of Customer Success at AppSembler. My second goal is that they and you will do all the talking, all right? So let's see what we can do. We're focused today on recent innovations in corporate learning. And I just would love to introduce the panelists here. What we're going to talk about really is how to achieve strategic goals through innovative uses of open edX. And what I want to learn and what we all want to learn is what were they trying to achieve? What were the results? What were the costs? What were some of the things they learned? Some of the mistakes that were made, etc. So who we have? We have, I'll start here. We have Carolyn Lesser, Director of Engineering at Microsoft, Engineering Director for the Learning and Readiness team at Microsoft. They create learning and readiness experiences for learners, ensuring they find what they want, enjoy the experience, and are recognized for their effort and can share their results with pride. We've got, in the middle, we've got Chinmay Navargi, Program Manager and Data Scientist at Applied Materials. And on different days, depending on the weather, Chinmay wears the hats of a Program Manager and Data Scientist at Applied Materials, where the Open edX instance is called AppliedX. His journey in online education began at Stanford with Stanford Online, where he helped launch the first material science MOOC called Solar Cells, Fuel Cells, and Batteries. And finally, we've got Vishal Gandhi, Head of Product Engineering at McKinsey & Company, a technologist passionate about all things product, resident edX evangelist and troublemaker at McKinsey Academy. I quote. His journey into online, his experience working at various startups and digital agencies in New York. Lately, anything edX related is interesting to him. So, what were the strategic business initiatives? What we're trying to achieve? Results, top lessons learned, success metrics. So, Chinmay, you want to start us off?
Sure. All right, so thanks for the wonderful introduction and thanks for the opportunity. Hello? Yeah. So thanks for the opportunity to be on the panel. This is my second Open edX conference. I see a lot of familiar faces here and very excited to be here, especially in Madrid. Harry gave a wonderful two-line description of what we are doing, what I am doing rather. Our instance is called AppliedX, and I began my journey a little before that at Stanford, where it was really exciting to be part of the MOOC revolution that was happening. And so that excited me, and I kind of switched gears from doing a experimental PhD to sort of follow my passion doing education and online learning. So, and then I joined Applied Materials, where I've done a bunch of different things that I can elaborate on. A little more about Applied Materials. For those of you who don't know, we are the leader in materials engineering solutions. So there's a high chance that any device that you're carrying has gone through an Applied Materials tool. It's used to produce virtually every chip and advanced display. So all your mobile phones probably have gone through a system that looks like the one at the bottom right. So as you can imagine, there is a lot of different kinds of processes that we do, right from engineering to manufacturing to sales, so a wide variety of employees who have very different learning and training needs, very often not solved by traditional higher education. And so the company invests heavily in professional development, learning, and training to meet, obviously, business results, but also employee development.
And so the AppliedX effort, which is the Open edX-based effort, was a part of this entire initiative. So what is AppliedX? It's our self-hosted, and now it's our primary course platform. And for those of you who don't know, SPOC, it's a small private online course, as opposed to massively open, because these courses are not massively open very often. But we deal with a lot of different content types, as I said. So for engineering, technology, business processes, compliance, all of these learning needs. We started our journey about 2 years ago now, so early or mid-2015. And by now, we have over 200 courses, about 100,000 plus course instances, and across geographies, right? So completed by 10,000 plus users all over the world. So we've come a long way in a short 1.5 to 2 years. So it's been a really exciting journey so far. A little more about what AppliedX is, basically. These are short, self-paced courses, so on a variety of different topics. And they're all created internally. So similar to the Microsoft talk that we heard just before this, we engage our subject matter experts, and we've built a team of instructional designers to work with them to create courses. Now remember, these are not professors or professionals who have teaching experience. They're just experts in their domain, right? They've been in the company for 10 plus years and have all of this technical information in their heads or on their devices, and it's very important for them to share them across the company. We work with them, and one thing I didn't mention in the introduction is I've also done instructional design for some of these courses, leveraging some of my background in material science. So it's been an interesting sort of integrated organization that we built, where we work with these subject matter experts, coach them to create courses and deliver them, right? We are very proud of our global course and video production workflow. So we've developed what we call self-operated studios. So anyone can come into the studio and start creating courses. And of course, we provide all the training and support that is needed to do this video production and then course production going forward, right? So all of the course material and video content is produced and authored with the help of these instructional designers. And the idea is to scale it up even further. So we are a global company, and right now we have studios in USA and in India, but there's plan to set up these pretty low-cost studios all over the world. And our motto is basically democratization of course production. So anyone should be able to create courses and share their knowledge, right, across the company. So this is just some of the video, what a video looks like, and it's pretty hard to just face a camera and speak for a long time. I learned that a hard way, but it gets better. It gets better with practice, and I really like the idea of improv, by the way, to get better at that. So the way we think about this entire effort is in terms of these three buckets, so platform, content, and users. And this is a feedback loop, right? So the content is served to the users, the feedback from the users fuels further platform development, and we have these development in-house. So we are very agile with this process. So as you can imagine, a lot of analytics comes in, a lot of customizations that are informed by the analytics that we invest in, right? And so some of the stuff that we've done, and I'm happy to talk more offline as well, and we have most of our development team here as well, so someone to talk to. We have implemented a lot of customizations. I won't read through all of them, but some of the interesting ones that we wanted a couple of years ago, because intellectual property is such a big concern for us, was secure video hosting, single sign-on, And that did not exist at that point. We are, even in the Open edX community, we are a long way from where we started. And so some of these things which are quite available these days were not very available a couple of years ago. So we invested a lot in customizing them internally exactly to suit our needs. The other things, catalog, gamification. So come to my lightning talk for that. I can describe it in 5 minutes there. Some surveys, other APIs. There are a lot of customizations that we have built and successfully integrated. Yeah.
Well, thank
so
you.
that's all I had.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Vishal, thank you.
Thing works. Test. Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Vishal Gandhi. I'm the head of product engineering at McKinsey Academy. McKinsey Academy is a small startup, I would say, within McKinsey, and we're a team of about 20, 25 people now. Thanks so much for AppSembler to organize this. This is my 4th Open edX conference, so I consider myself a veteran with edX. And it's always exciting to see some of the old faces and new faces too. So thank you, AppSembler, for organizing this. To start out, I mean, I was asked to send a few decks regarding McKinsey Academy, and knowing McKinsey the way we master our decks, I was able to put everything in one slide. I'm pretty proud about this, so I won't be using this anymore. So McKinsey Academy, what is McKinsey Academy? Our goal is to accelerate transformation of organizations by unlocking the potential of their people. I don't know if anyone of you attended Nick's talk this morning, but McKinsey is definitely very vested into building skill development and capability building for their people, and that kind of internal sort of culture of making sure that we have that knowledge base and content for our internal employees. Our goal was to take that kind of approach and expose it to our clients too, and provide the McKinsey knowledge base and the McKinsey way of approaching things, package that into courses, and offer a digital version of the knowledge base. So that's where McKinsey Academy was born, and we started in 2014. We launched our first program in September 2014. We work very closely with the edX team to build our platform. It's a fully customized instance. As you can see in some of the screenshots here, doesn't look very edX-like. So we've worked a lot on the UX, UI, customization. We've built a lot of the X blocks that maybe you guys use now, like Problem Builder and Image Explorer and drag drop and polls. So we've innovated a lot, and I think it's sort of comes from the partners and directors who have given us the leeway to innovate and really push hard on customization. So September 2014 was when we launched, and we've experimented a lot on different types of programs. We have program offerings that are purely digital, like McKinsey Management Program. But we've also experimented with blended learning last year, and that's worked out really well. So we have in-person workshops, and we have a program called Future Business Leadership Forum, FBLF, where we offer the online component, and also offline we have in-person workshops. So there's a variety of workshops that we have and programs, and you can go to mckinseyacademy.com if you wanted to, if you're interested. Coming back to this slide, the advantage of McKinsey Academy in terms of just like the differentiated sort of offering is our courses are taught by McKinsey partners, and there's a lot of sort of knowledge that they have and expertise around multiple types of domains within within the corporate sort of learning environment. It includes like problem solving, business strategy, being able to communicate for impact. I think I've tried to take that course multiple times because I need to work on that. Team management, another really interesting course. We've also like experimented and sort of seen where the trends are in terms of just what is the industry looking at. So courses like Unlocking the Potential of Women has also been very interesting in seeing how people are taking that course. And so I think the practitioner's perspective is definitely something that's distinctive within Academy. From a platform standpoint, we have employed some certain things like gamification and social learning. We have this notion of group work and group projects within McKinsey. We put people into groups and we assign them a project to do, and that kind of helps facilitate that kind of social learning aspect. There's peer assessments, peer reviews. It's a crazy custom Xblock that we built, so we're pretty proud about that, and most of our courses does have that component. TA guidance, I think, is another sort of really great feature that we have, where there's always a TA for a course, and there's someone available within the discussions forum that not only fosters and makes sure that there's some kind of like ongoing communication and discussions, but also like you can email a TA if you have any questions around the course content or if you're stuck somewhere. And McKinsey, as some of you may know, is all about data, and we're very, very passionate about analytics. Our GM's Mark Matakis, he's so passionate about analytics that not only do we have a very custom company dashboard where you can see like progress per user, but you can also like scale it down to like progress within a company or progress at a program level. So there's a lot of data analytics that we do behind the scenes. We also use tools like Google Analytics and other stuff. So I think that I would say is our infrastructure on analytics is very advanced. We just in terms of just like the edX kind of infrastructure, we actually ended up not using insights because we had just a lot of advanced needs for analytics, and we set up I think a customized sort of reporting system called Tableau. I don't know if you guys know about it, but I just thought I should mention it because of the enterprise audience here, and that's actually worked really well for us. We're able to look at activity on a daily basis, and our GM like hits refresh like every other second just to see like how people are progressing through the course. So I think we're pretty advanced there, and those are kind of I would say our distinctive features in the platform. And our platform experience, you would see here one of the recent innovations that we did is we started with this offering courses within a program, but there was sort of this missing component around being able to understand your learning journey and what's coming. And not only that, but like, with our blended learning initiatives, being able to see like a nice calendar view and a tile view of like what is the next in-person workshop about. So all that kind of was at the program level layer versus the course level layer. So we set up this feature called Learner Dashboard. Some of the guys over here worked with us on that. And that is basically your sort of go-to spot to see not only the upcoming events, but your ongoing courses, progress within the course, and related articles. And also, going ahead and embedding the company branding and theming, whoever is taking the course, that I think has been very powerful in terms of making it a little more seamless. We've done a lot of customizations that you mentioned around SSO and SCORM and a lot of other stuff. So I think in terms of just the pattern of where we're at and our pace, whatever we see in edX, like whatever demos I see today and yesterday, and we've kind of almost done those things, but they're all within our custom instance. We try to contribute back as much as possible, and we're open to that. So obviously, if there's anything that you guys are interested, just let me know after this meeting. So, but yeah, in terms of impact, we have about 20K participants. This is 10K, but it's actually 20 now. We have 150 plus clients. Our completion rates are pretty high. I think the completion rate being high is an after effect of not only having the TAs pushing the participants, but also these courses are offered to employees by their bosses, so they're kind of forced to do it. So that's where we're seeing high completion rates. But our content is definitely king here. We have really good content and distinctive sort of videos that we use, and we have experimented with, as you said, like the video size, keeping it under 3 minutes has worked for us. So those kind of things have made sure our completion rates are high. Recommendation rate has also been pretty high. Nick Van Dam mentioned this morning VFTS, which is we always ask our participants after they complete a course value for time spent. It's a McKinsey thing, and people really are recommending taking the course, and have really found some of our content very, very helpful, not only in learning like new frameworks and methodologies, but also taking that learning and applying it on their day-to-day job. So I think that's been pretty good. So yeah, that's McKinsey Academy. If anyone has any questions, let me know. Thanks.
Thank you, Vishal. Can I have the Carolyn?
Greetings. So I'm Carolyn. I'm the Director of Engineering at Microsoft in the Learning and Readiness organization. We believe that learning is an enabler to empowering people all around the world to achieve more. And I want to sort of just spend, I was asked to kind of highlight, maybe about two sort of things that sort of have been interesting challenges for us, and that we focus on a bit around sort of Open edX. I touched on some of these in my earlier session today. The first I'll talk about is learning at global scale with local relevance, right? And this is how we approach sort of content syndication, if you will, with our MOOC content. To expand access to different geographic regions, to partner to address sort of the different needs within those local demographics. And I'll highlight here a partnership that we have with Eastern Washington University relating to our work on the Microsoft Professional Program in Data Science. And so Eastern Washington University is a small regional school in Cheney, Washington, and they are leveraging our curriculum in data science to enable them to offer a Bachelor of Science degree in data analytics. And they'll use certainly sort of a blended learning sort of environment with that. Their curriculum will include sort of 3 years of their own foundational skill work, that a traditional university would offer in sort of statistics and math and everything to get those individuals, such that by the 4th year, they're fundamentally taking and are prepared for that Microsoft Professional Program in Data Science, and that enables them to offer the Bachelor of Science degree in data analytics. And this is just one example of sort of our through partner motion that we have, and sort of enabling that content syndication of our curriculum with others. It's also enabled Eastern Washington to consider sort of an extension offering and an online presence, and so been sort of an accelerant in their ramp to sort of enable that. And that's been the power of having Open edX available to them. The second one I'll talk about is building customer, partner, and employee capability. So we certainly care a lot about skilling up our own workforce in today's sort of constantly changing technology world. We need to be able to have our employees keep pace with that. That's true within my own engineering group as well, with respect to what we need to know, for tomorrow in order to deliver for today. We also want to enable, our offerings across these three audiences, and that poses its own challenges. When you consider employees, we would typically have a different authentication experience than we would for a customer, and then we would also for sort of a partner. So that identity mechanism and authentication piece is actually unique to each one. We also look at the way that, if you will, the information architecture and how that course content would be presented at times changes across those three audiences. For partners, the way that we typically expose content is aligned to our competency model around sort of specific technical domains. For customers, it's probably a different type of pivot. And maybe even some more dimensions for that. And then, of course, we fundamentally, one of our biggest challenges is sort of keeping up with the pace of change, right? And how do you sort of adapt and ensure that your course content is always current and aligned? Like in the case of Azure, which is releasing all the time with new features, how do we ensure that any of our courses about Azure actually align to what's in market and available today?
Carolyn, thank you. And thank you for sticking to the 5 minutes. Before I ask any questions out here in the audience? Because I've got several. There's one right up there.
So I was wondering, in all of your experiences, are you thinking at all about efficiency of your courses? Because historically, a lot of the focus has been just getting content and updating content, as opposed to, from a learner's perspective, how quickly can I learn something?
Anyone?
Yeah, I could speak to that. Great question. Definitely in the initial phase, obviously, getting the content out there, we had a vision for the content and what we called it the product development engine, which was sort of content related to engineering product development, right? So it was to be delivered to 8,000 engineers across the company. And so the content piece was there, but as Caroline pointed out as well, obsolescence is something that we definitely faced within 6 months, right? So there's always and that's where the critical feedback loop comes in. So we are very engaged in getting analytics as well as feedback from our learners on a very short cadence, like a high frequency. And so what we do is we strive to improve the content based on that feedback on a regular basis. And the measurement obviously has been through surveys and through obviously anecdotal evidence. Managers' input is also something that is very important, because the idea is adoption on the job, right? So since 10% is like the well-known stat that 10% is formal learning, everything else is on the job. So following up with managers, getting manager input and content development, having managers actually become subject matter experts. So having a say as well as ownership of the content, right? Ownership and leadership of the content. So most of our subject matter experts have now become celebrities in the company. So they are recognized experts. People go to them to ask questions, right? And so having all of these mechanisms sort of helps ensure that content is relevant and it's adopted.
I think we have time for one more. Sorry. Sir.
My question goes to persons from Microsoft and McKinsey. I wonder, why do you use open edX platform rather than developing your own? That's my question.
It's a good question. To be honest, we actually started on this path by developing our own. It wasn't until 2016 that we actually sort of pivoted to Open edX, and that was based upon in 2015 in March when we launched our first 7 courses with edX.org. What was attractive around Open edX was the fact that its community includes academia, industry, nonprofit, right? Like there's a rich community around this, which we found, sort of very appealing and very well aligned, with our mission. And we definitely wanted to embrace being members of an open source community as well. And so that's part of the reason that we invested in Open edX. That said, I would also say that it's not the totality of our learning solution. As I shared in my earlier session about our learning ecosystem, if you will, at the company, especially for internal employees, there are multiple learning and readiness assets. MOOCs are just one part of the set of learning assets that we provide to our employees. Sometimes the learning asset is as simple as a PowerPoint, a PDF, or a video. In other cases, it's a MOOC for sort of rich skill development, and it sort of depends upon sort of what we need at that time.
Yeah, I think we have like very similar sort of ideas around edX, but I think McKinsey historically is more about in-person workshops and that kind of being in a room and doing learning. But with edX, what we were getting was that digital component and just being able to learn from edX of how can we package something into a course. From a product standpoint, from also a learning objective standpoint, there's a lot of things that we were getting from edX, but also from a platform standpoint, we wanted to sort of accelerate our platform. So adopting edX and using what we had on edX was useful. We did actually start with a prototype version before edX, which was custom, and that did gain a lot of traction. But in terms of McKinsey, it is a global audience, right? So we needed that scale, which edX has offered to us. So that's also been pretty useful, and I think that's why we went with edX.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, Chimney. Thank you, Carolyn. Sorry we couldn't take more questions. Enjoy lunch and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.